Awesome. Alrighty, let's get everything started.
Oh, yep.
Instagram.
Well, hi, everyone. We are live. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, my dear. How's your Monday going?
Quiet. Nothing exciting going on. Um, yeah. I mean, I don't know. We don't have a lot planned for tonight. We thought we would come up with a few topics of conversation. We're just going to have conversation tonight. So feel free to post any questions that you have in the chat or any comments you would like to make along with what we're chatting about. Don't forget to subscribe, like. We are running live on, here we go with the list. Okay, let's see if I can do it, Becky. um, YouTube, 3 Facebook pages, 2 Instagrams, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Rumble, and Twitch. Did I do it?
You you got it. Good job.
Woo! Woo!
Yes, we are
So
live
we
on multiple platforms. And so I think we have a delay. But so those that are listening to just the audio, welcome to all of you as well.
welcome. So we've got some kind of neat news regarding our BNC community group. So, do you want to tell the folks what's been in the works last week?
Yes. So there were some things that went down last week, and needless to say, the BNC community is growing. It is thriving. We've added even more meetings to help the people on accountability and support. We created a daily social meeting where people can come together, congregate, create that fellowship. Um, so that is a daily meeting, but then we end up we have weekly meetings as well. So we have an Eat Fat and Thrive for those people like myself that do more of a higher fat, moderate protein. That is open to the community. It is not one of the meetings that is just for, the Fat Fast Masterclass. That is a regular weekly meeting. And then we have an evening meeting following this that is also in regards of like nutrition and macros. We added a new meeting of fasting. So we have that. We also have mental health meeting and beginner breathwork meeting, our normal, intuitive step meeting. Um, and then we will be coming in May with a lunar bite meeting on Wednesdays. Thursdays, Craig ends up and does the optimizing weight training with animal-based nutrition. And then I follow up on uh, with a ketovore meeting, um, as well as aromatherapy and sleep. And you do the supercharge. And we also have an onboarding meeting on Fridays as well. So we do have all sorts of additional meetings added, and hopefully they're meetings that people appreciate and attend, and they've been well received by the community. Great attendance so far. So
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been we've had a number of new members join, and I think it's breathed some good life into the regulars that were already there. And it's just been fun to watch the dynamics of everybody mixing and mingling and the questions and everybody's learning. in there. They all sorts of questions. Everybody's in a different nutrition path. We don't subscribe to you have to do it this way, only this way, or else we won't talk to you type thing mentality. That's why it's called Beyond Nutrition, right?
It is, yeah. And we look at, like I said, breath work, mental health. Sly and Kevin and you all go into more of that mindset, that mental health, that connection of, because a lot of people also connect food, right? No matter what they're eating, or some people even, that's where they kind of go off the rails, is because they use food as a coping. So that's where
Yeah.
some of these other, meanings also come into play.
Yes. So Friday, I asked everyone in my meeting, how long is a marathon? And we got varying answers, which I knew we would, right? It was like kind of a setup question, because an actual marathon is what did we say? 27 miles, something like that.
I think it's 26.2, because I think half a marathon's 13.1. But
yeah, I think you're right. So that's wasn't the answer I was going for, because everyone forgets to, if you're going to run a marathon, you have to do things well in advance to get to that point. And I was equaling it to your healing and wellness journey. And, if you think about what kind of shoes are you going to have, right? What kind of, what are you going to run in? Is it windy? Is it raining? How far do you start out? What kind of food are you going to eat? How long are you going to prep for to run that marathon? There's just a whole host of things that go into a marathon that is more than how long is a marathon, right? So it was a great discussion. What did you take away from that discussion, Becky?
it definitely, it's a journey, right? How can we end up and create what we are doing into a sustainable journey? It's not, there's no end date, it's not, we do this for 30 days, we do this for 90 days. It's how can we end up and create this into a sustainable lifestyle? And that is the biggest thing. And also that, again, that connection that many people have with food, right? Many refer to it as food noise, where they're constantly either thinking about, or they're not necessarily satiated, or, just that side of it. And that's where I'm really glad we have some of these meetings that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, I've been reading a book, and it says that we suffer for the simple reason that suffering is biologically useful. It is nature's preferred agent for inspiring change. Whoa.
Yep.
And then pain in all of its forms.
And so how would you end up and relate?
No, go ahead. We're having a delay, I think.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Are you there, Becky? Is it? Yeah, I said we're having a delay, I think, of that. No, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, what was your takeaway from that passage that you read?
Well, pain in all forms is our body's most effective means of spurring action. Nobody wants pain. I don't want to be in pain. And to think about it in that context of our body's mean of spurring action is kind of exactly, not kind of, it was exactly what happened to me to put me on the road to healing. My A1C was getting worse. They were adding more and more meds. I had a health crisis that put me in the hospital. I was just going down a horrible path. And then, of course, my best friend of 30 years passed away. And she was well over 400, 450. It was very enlightening. Pain is going to come no matter what. It's what we do with it and what we choose to do with it, which I thought was definitely my journey. And I think it was yours too, Becky. You're muted.
Yeah, it was definitely, I muted myself because we had a delay and I thought maybe that would be the easiest way to know if one of us was talking. And then I forget to unmute myself. But anyway, that is one of the biggest ways. Yes, it was part of my journey, but I also feel like Instagram or social media is a highlight reel, right? That's one of the reasons why we ended up when we talked about starting this was to share our struggles, share the success, bring other people's stories into it. Because it's not always just, sunshine and butterflies, right? There's
Right.
times where people are going to struggle, and that's one of the other reasons why I build a community, to bring everyone together, because community support or just support is big. And
Right.
many people don't have that as part of their process.
Yes, definitely. And when you think about it, happy, again, I'm quoting out of this book, but it says happiness is a constant work in progress because solving problems is a constant work in progress. The solutions to today's problems will lay the foundation for tomorrow's problems, and so on. True happiness occurs only when you find the problems you enjoy having and enjoy solving. And that's true. So if you find that passion that you love, it poses a problem. You want to do that. What do you do? What processes do you take? And in the meantime, you're enjoying that problem solving to do what you like to do. And I think that just definitely goes along with food. I don't know how many times you and I get asked the question, just tell me what to eat.
Yeah. Because people want that simple answer. And we're all individuals. So what works for us or works for you or works for, several of the people in the community, we're all individual. We don't live in the same body. We don't live in the same environment. We all have to do it a little bit different. I live in the same household and the same environment as my husband. We eat a little bit different. It's just our hormones are different, just the whole aspect, right, is different. So yeah, it's such an individualized process that anyone that tells you, to eat, and it's also different in 40, 50, 60-year-old women that are listening to 20-year-old influencers that have, a different metabolism. They have different hormones.
Right.
It's not similar. So yeah, that's a whole nether ball game, is, connecting with and being supported by someone that is similar to you, right? Or sharing stories so that maybe just that story will inspire someone, just that one person. I
Right.
That's my biggest thing.
Well, and I've been reading a lot about this new coin term called food noise. And basically, what that is that do you have constant thoughts about what, when, and how much to eat, how much to consume? Is it consuming your waking moments? Is it, uh, do you think about food even after a meal? Do you go back and forth between two options of what to eat? Are you worrying about the timing of your meals? Are you strategizing on how to perfectly time your meals so you can eat the smallest amount possible? Finding it difficult to concentrate on other things in life because you're worried about eating, feeling like you don't think about much else, trying to constantly make up for what you eat with exercise, kind of punishing yourself because, oh my goodness, I went off the rails. Not wanting to engage in things that you want to do in life because you're worried about what food will be there. That's all food noise. And I'm starting to see more and more of our clients with that thought.
Hmm. And that's where the whole, yeah, we kind of discussed this in one of the meetings earlier today. Because we can get in a very vicious pattern when it comes to what we do, right?
Yeah.
There's some people that will mindlessly eat. So if there's a difference in, like, for instance, my feast week, right? Or feasting. There's a difference in that versus someone that has the food noise where they sit and they eat a meal, but then they're eating beyond, what, and they're mindlessly eating and they're craving and they're eating, that's where I would say the food noise is coming in, because it's more this continuous aspect where they don't necessarily mean to be eating. It's not because they're still maybe hungry, but it's more the fact of they're bored or they're tired, or, it's just a constant thought process too. So,
Well, and two, I mean, I think a lot of what has driven people to this is because for so many years it's been about restriction and conflict, right? You've restricted your foods, you're on a diet, and your brain wants
mhm,
one thing and your body wants another. And so then you're stuck in that pattern of going back and forth because food is comforting and constantly thinking about that obviously looks different for everyone, but it's fascinating that it could be driven because your fear of gaining weight or eating disorders, depression, anxiety, weight cycling, um you know all kinds of diseases. And
mhm.
it's definitely something, you have to ask, are you depressed? Are you anxious? Are you, because we've lost the trigger for what's hunger.
Yep. That whole leptin, ghrelin, metabolism, side of things that tells us, the gut brain axis, that HPA axis, if you will, is broken many people, because if they aren't getting that signal, they're not being, and we also are in a rush, right? When's the last time many people ended up and sat down and ate an actual meal. They don't slow down to eat. They are eating on the go. They're eating in vehicles. They're eating, fast food, or they're eating at work and they only have, so many minutes to get a meal done. And it's a rush. And that also part of that process starts with the chewing, right? So if you're not slowing down and chewing your food, you're not creating a meal composition that is satiating. It's a lot.
It makes me think of my grandmother, and she had a sweet tooth. But she would eat something and she would go, "Oh, that's good. I have to have a little bit more." And then, "Oh, I have to have a little bit more," right? And it makes me think of that because she wasn't hungry. It just lit up the dopamine because she got the sugar rush or whatever it was. Of course, we didn't know all that back then, but it tasted good. I want more.
It was the start of the process of the whole cycle of where we are now. How they've been lying to us. The food companies have been lying in regards of what nutrition truly is.
Right.
I mean, and that goes back several years. We're not just talking, recently.
Right. Well, and I think you also have to identify your food noise triggers and patterns. I mean, that's where journaling comes in handy. It's like that might help stop that food noise, that when you identify that I'm going to go get a bag of chips and start just eating out of the bag of chips, or I have to have ice cream in the evening after I had dinner not too long ago. You stop and identify that and ask yourself, am I truly, like, what's going on? Am I anxious about something?
And that's where, am I back? I think I froze again for a minute. But that's where I was just reading the comments over on Instagram too. And there are many people that when they are anxious or stressed, they don't necessarily journal and have a different form of release on that energy flow. And so they do end up and go to food for comfort. And that's where, even if you extract, one of like the 12-step programs, the HALT, you know, and think about or do something different. And yes, food for many, whether it's grandparents or parents, even, it's their love language, spouses, right? But yeah, we kind of got to have some real conversations also in regards of what we're doing and the path that we are on in reversing our health, or reversing our disease, I should say, improving our health. Because sometimes having those real conversations stops those people that will be like, oh, it's just one bite, oh, here, it's just one time a year, those type of voices or enablers, if you will, depending on what your food quote drug of choice is, right? For some, that's sugar. That opens the door, and they're gone on a spiral. So I get how some have to be abstainers to quiet that food noise, and I get some are able to be a little bit more of a moderator.
Definitely. I mean, when every time I would go home to visit my parents, it was like, okay, I want your your potato salad, and I want the cheese ball, and I want, like, there was things my mom would make for me that I didn't make for myself because my husband wouldn't eat it. But and that is halted, right? I know what it tastes like. I know I could do it. But right now, my healing journey, the pain is greater than giving in to that. I fight tooth and nail to not, I don't want to have to go back on medication.
Mm-hmm. But that also comes from a strong and a deep why. Right? Many people are still wrapped up in the medical field or, standard medicine practice, and they're okay with being on the medicine. I got tired of being on my medicine, right? I wanted off of my 7 different types of medication that I was on. But it wasn't just I stopped taking it and I'm healed, right? It's
Right.
the purpose of what I do. It is the driver in what I do. And for many, they don't have that why yet. They don't have that strong aspect yet. So,
Well, and just like running the marathon, you have to make lasting changes that give you the power to achieve your goals, right? But that's starting out small, like you said, identifying your why, prioritizing your mental health, adding in mindful meditation. And that sounds to some people like woo woo, right?
mm-hmm.
But sitting and breathing and relaxing and just focusing can help stress management. Huge. I mean, that's just huge.
Controlling that cortisol controls the blood sugar. And many people, I mean, I can't tell you how many coaching sessions I've been on, and I'm like, do you do any type of breath work? Do you do tapping? Do in those one-on-one sessions, because so many people are trying to burn the candle at both ends, and or fasting through breakfast, not eating early in the day. That will stimulate, a rise in the cortisol as well. Yes, your cortisol rises in the morning anyway, but when you overstimulate it by adding additional stressors to it, that will eventually catch up with you and backfire on you too. So it does truly end up and make a difference. There's a lot of information out there in earlier time restricted eating versus fasting through the morning, but just that whole aspect of kind of what we do, in a day. And many people aren't present in their body, they just go through the motions.
Right.
So
I know that my why, when I got started down this path, I wrote my why out and I hung it on my refrigerator with a magnet. And it was there in front of my face all the time. Why? Why did I decide to do this? And it was a long why. And it's still my why. Modified it a little, but it's at the root of my why. Everybody has to do that, but write it down, brainstorm it out. What is really important? Share your why with a trusted family member or friend or mentor, or like we have the BNC group. Go back and visit your list of why, and that helps you stay focused. Like I said, I put mine on my refrigerator. Update it If it changes, update it. But that right there is a big beginning step.
Yep. That many people end up and overlook, right? They aren't digging deep enough. It's more of a superficial, right? They just don't dig deep enough to really have that spark, that motivation, that, desire. It's more, oh, I want to lose weight, or, I want, something simple. And really dig into that to figure out what is going to support you, what is going to motivate you, what is going to help you stay on that path.
Well, and one thing that you should do is take pictures, measurements, and your starting weight. And don't get on that scale every day. That will just spin you out. But record once a month what those are. I cannot see at all how much I've changed. My mind thinks I look like the person I was when I started, until I look at the pictures side by side and go, whoa, those are two completely different people, just look wise.
Yeah, well, that the whole body dysmorphia thing that we ended up when we talked about, it is hard for many of us to see because we look at ourselves daily, right? We get up, we get dressed, we brush our teeth, we see that person in the mirror every day. And so it's hard for some also, the denial of where they were. And so to put that side by side and see that progression, to see that momentum of moving forward, maybe it's just you're sleeping better. Maybe it's you have less inflammation. Maybe, there's so many things that can end up and get better. Keep a log. Like you said, you created a amazing journal that is on the BNC website. It's a 3-month journal. People can end up and keep those logs of, what their plan is, what has worked.
Right.
It's not until you reflect back that you really end up and are able to see how far you've truly come.
I think you hit on something interesting, Becky, when you said denial. And some people, and I was one of those people, denied my problems existed in the first place. And because the reality was that I could delude myself, right? And distract myself from that reality. And it worked in the short term. And until like I had to go to the doctor, right? Oh, I didn't, for the longest time, I refused to wear a CGM because I was in denial, because I did not want to know what my blood sugars was reading. And it was easier to ignore it, deny it, than to deal with it until I had to deal with it. Is it still one of my favorite things to do? No, not really, but it's necessary at this point. And I know you remember the days when I was kicking and screaming to put that CGM on.
Yep.
But I know I'm not the only one that is kicking and screaming and denying your problems. And like I said, it works for the short term, and then reality will get you.
Mm-hmm. It will.
One of the things too is overcoming those challenges and setbacks. What do you suggest people do for those setbacks and challenges.
And that's where, so you're going to have periods where you're going to have that setback, or you're going to have to make the adjustment, because, maybe you hit a plateau, maybe you've come to that challenge and, the part of the journey, but looking at and creating a community, right? So that's where the community ends up and comes in, because like I said, we have so many people that are doing it different way that I know within the community, right? There's people that have been doing it, that maybe they were doing fasting, doing the feasting side of things, really eating, carnivore. We have some that are doing, maybe more paleo to put labels on it. I hate dietary camps, but doing each, right? But then they end up and it worked until it didn't. And when they hit that challenge, that's where, okay, you were talking about X, Y, or Z, right? And so really questioning the community, or questioning people and how they do it, and maybe extracting some of that information. And it's not that I've done many experiments over, the last 5 years, but it's not that I quit progressing in the journey. There's still basics that I end up and I call my non-negotiables, but there's aspects of it that I have started to incorporate or look at differently, and some of them didn't work, right? High protein, low fat doesn't work for me. Works for some, but it doesn't work for me. Longer fast, 4+ day water fast works for some, didn't work for me, right? Fat fasting works for me. Higher fat most of the time ends up and works for me, right? So there's all those aspects that we can look to overcome the challenge, but being able to also run it by a community, run it past a coach, right? We end up we have coaches in the BNC, that, we have the coach-led meetings, but you have the ability to book a coach. So maybe it's something that you want to, sit down and discuss in a coaching session. Maybe group thing, isn't always your thing. So that's what I would suggest for challenges, is working with someone, whether it be a community or be a coach, to help you overcome those.
Right, the accountability factor. And here's the thing, if you're not ready to start your healing journey, you're not in the right mental frame of mind, or you don't know where to start and it's overwhelming, still find your group, right? Find your people that's going to help you kind of get past that noise, right? And help you focus. There's never a perfect time to have children, right? There's never a perfect time, well, I'll start this when X happens. There's never a perfect time. So that's why the BNC community is here. If you're struggling, you've got setbacks, we have multiple resources. That I think one of the big ones is the mental health meeting that we have, which is really can get you to dive in and think about things. And then you stack the other stuff. But I'm going to tell you what, you can't do it all. And if you try to do it all, you're going to set yourself up for failure.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's when the body gets overwhelmed, it's another form of stress, right? And the body shuts down. It doesn't want to continue on. And that's where they'll end up and stop, because they just don't know what way to go.
Right. Well, and when I went 21 months without seeing much change, and in the past I would have quit, and said this keto carnivore, this way of eating isn't working, and blah, blah, blah. And I would have quit. But my why was on my refrigerator. And I always knew I had two choices: quit and go right back on all the meds, or find a different way to approach and figure out what my body is wanting and telling me that it needed.
Yeah. And that's where many people get stuck, because they end up and they tell them just to keep going, just push harder, push farther, right? And that's not always the case. Sometimes you got to take a step back and not continue to go forward, not continue to push farther, push harder or push further or fast longer, or I mean, the list could go on, but take a step back. Reassure the body that, hey, it's okay, right? Maybe that means opening things up, doing more of like a dusk to dawn type fast, eating 3 meals a day. Maybe it's not going and spending hours in a gym. Maybe it's just simply going for a walk. Walking is so underutilized. And add the bonus perk of grounding in there, and man, you've got quite the duo of movement and grounding. But, well, I should say trifecta, because if you're outside walking, you've also got the sunlight. But it's just many of the free aspects of what we do day in, day out, people don't look at as it being beneficial to them. They think that it has to be complicated, because that's what's been instilled in us, is it's got to be complicated. I've got to do, blah, 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 right? And it really doesn't.
Well, and my mom's watching. And so I'm going to say what I told her today. She said to me, I'm tired and I'm going to go take a nap. And I said, Mom, go outside. Mm-hmm. So can you expand on why I told her that, Becky?
So, because we end up, especially depending what time of day it is, we get a energy boost from the sunlight. We also get hormone boost from the sunlight. If you are also outside grounding, we end up, when we gain those electrons, when we end up connecting our feet or body to a natural surface. That can be, sand, soil, grass, a tree, a bush. I mean, anything that is living, rooted in the ground, or the ground itself. Which I kind of expand upon in the intuitive step meetings on Wednesday. But we're so drained because we're inside, we're around electronics, we're on cell phones, we're, Bluetooth, this and that. Many people, I use a wired headphone, right? Many people are sticking their cell phones, up to their head all day long, or they've got an earbud in their ear. And they're not getting outside, and so that ends up, and it depletes the exclusion zone water in the body. But when we get outside and we can rebuild this, we can end up and expand that exclusion zone water. We can remineralize the body as well, right? So drinking mineral water, I drink my Shilajit. It just helps on a cellular level. But also the sunlight. There's different benefits depending on the time of day, right? We can build up the melatonin if we get out and see sunrise. I know it sounds odd that, why would something that's going to help me at night, but I'm doing it in the morning. Well, that helps to store it in the pineal gland for the nighttime. And UVA helps with the serotonin, the dopamine, UVB helps to build the vitamin D, but also many people that are tired in the afternoon, that 2-3 p.m. slump, if they just get outside and reconnect with nature, take that deep breath, it will end up and re-energize the body because, again, we're living beings. So we end up, we need the sunlight, not all the electronics and Wi-Fi and everything else.
Most definitely. And somebody commented, I think a lot of people over Google and get overwhelmed. Focusing on the why is so important. Most definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just checking Instagram for questions or comments, but
yeah, everybody's quiet tonight.
They are. It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
We're always live on Monday, but
well, and it sets it, believe it or not, the fact that we chose to have our live on Monday evenings really does set the tone for Becky and I.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It sets the intention for the week, right?
Yep.
When we end up, we look at, Mondays are normally the day that I'll meal prep. It's the day that I sit down and, okay, what does the week look like, right? What do I have, happening? Work wise, it ends up and it sets, and just shifting that tone, shifting that intention. Our body likes the positivity. Our body, again, going back to that water, right? The body holds the memory, the body holds the intention. So when we set it in a positive way, or we surround ourselves in a positive way, the body holds that. And that's the other aspect of, kind of going back to your why, is we have to see that better version of ourselves, not dwell on the past, not dwell on, what is wrong, but continue to focus on what is going right. What can I do that is right? Maybe that's just simply, getting up and putting shoes on in the morning, or getting up and, combing your hair. It can be the smallest step. Maybe for others, it's, going for a walk or structuring their day and creating a daily checklist, but just simply doing what is a better version of yourself than what you were yesterday.
And you don't have to be perfect.
Progress. It's a journey. It's a sustainable lifestyle.
Right? When you're running that marathon, that's what we're doing. This is a step by. That's why my Instagram and my social media is Step by Healing Step, because that is literally what it is. It is one step at a time. Sometimes there's steps back. Sometimes there's steps forward. Sometimes they're baby steps. Sometimes no steps at all. But that's part of the journey. And I always say that the 275 plus person that I was is looking at me today going, man, I would have done anything to get to where you're at. And that's huge. Mm-hmm. Because the person I am now is going to look at the person I am in the future and go, I'm going to go, good job. You kept going. Look at you now. You're making progress. So hopefully that gives some people some hope.
Yep. Absolutely.
So what meeting do we have following our live in the group?
It is the nutrition meeting. So yes, we will we will be jumping over there into the BNC community. And for anyone that has not yet joined us, I will put a link in the chat. Feel free to come join us. We meet every day. Like I said, we have a daily social. Some days we have meetings during the day. Some days we have meetings in the evening. I would say Monday through Thursday, we have an evening meeting. We have afternoon meetings. We've got meetings, so it doesn't really matter what time zone you're in. I'm still working on the website so that people can actually see like what meetings we have or what meetings we offer. But yeah, come join us at the BNC community.
Absolutely. Well, this was fun. I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, comment, like, feedback, anything you want. It helps the algorithm. It does, so we can reach more people. We set out to have conversation and just talk about topics. We're just two real women that is on our journey, and we purposely do not go put makeup on and do our hair, and we have all the fancy lighting and everything surrounding that, because when it comes down to it, we're all just real people. And I think that speaks louder than the fancy productions. At least that's what I like. I don't know about you.
It's more, we try to be more relatable. So
Yeah.
people that are just real people, right? Just the average Joe that's on the road. That's what we are. And those are the type of people that we're looking at reaching.
Yeah. Well, listen, set your tone, folks. Figure out your why. And if you're so inclined, we would love for you to come join us in the BNC community. We will take you by the hand and help you along your journey. So this was a good topic, Becky.
Absolutely. And if you don't join us in the BNC community, join us back here next Monday, and we will be going live again.
Yep. And we've got, I think we have a guest coming up in May. So that will be exciting. This person's just like us, an average person who has, believes she's lost 60 pounds or more. So I always loved, not just we love to get those real, all of a sudden it became me. I don't know what that was. But anyway,
That's all right.
We like to celebrate the average person's journey, and those are the spotlights that we just adore to bring on. And maybe something they say will help you as well.
Absolutely. So join us, like I said, next Monday night. The special guest will be May 13th. If you know of anyone that you want us to talk to, put it in the chat or direct message one of us, and we will reach out to them and try to get them on. But otherwise, have a wonderful Monday.
Bye.